Okay, there we go. Welcome, Izzy. Always great. So tonight, I think we are going to dive back into material design and XAML. There's a number of things. I'd like to get the 5.1 release out the door. Yeah, there's a lot of PRs open, and then there's one in particular or one issue that came up that I want to dive into around colors that feels like it might be big enough to hold a release until a fix goes in. But we're gonna check it. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, first up, a couple announcements. One, for anybody who is interested in eye configuration stuff, there is a talk that I'm doing on eye configuration. So this is going to be mildly related to generic host, eye options, eye configuration, setting all of that stuff up. Number spinner might make the cut, Izzy. We're gonna see. It like there's a chance. There is a very real chance. It's close enough that I might just push it over the edge and make it go. Um, if you are watching a recording of this video in the future, it's gonna be up on Intellitek's YouTube. So if you miss the live event and you just want to catch the recording, catch it on the YouTube as well. But it helps me if people sign up for the attendee numbers. So yeah. So if you feel like doing that, great. If you want to catch the YouTube recording, that also works too. Okay, one more thing. So last week, I was fighting with deploying an Uno app out with Velopack. It turns out, after digging into it, that I spent all of that time fighting with it, only to discover that, in fact, the problem was a bug that got introduced in the preview package of the Velopack SDK that I was using, and it was biting me. Short version, we upgraded our JSON parsing to use the new source generator stuff. It's fast, it's awesome, it's wonderful. But in doing so, a teeny little bug slipped in. And it turns out teeny little bugs cause very big problems. But I did get it in and working. It wasn't an exciting fix. It was adding an attribute and kicking a new package, and then poof, magic occurred and everything worked. But I did go through and write up, so the sample project is now actually merged into the main Velopack SDK. So if anybody wants to see it and play with it, I did outline it here. I sent it off to some of the Uno folks, and they got back to me with some answers to some questions I had, which was great. Um, they they did recommend moving this inside of, or I guess they asked more than recommended, if we could move the Velopack stuff inside of the app on launched or even the app's constructor to see if that was possible. And I think the answer is probably. The only disadvantage I see there is by doing it later, your startup time is going to take a small hit, because doing this Velopack app build with first run, like this may cause your app to restart in the case of an update. So if you don't care about the time that might add, and it's not much, like how long does a UI framework take to start? Most of the time, we don't even consider that when we're looking at app startup. It's, for the convenience sake, it's probably worth moving it there, especially for a sample for people to see. Because I ended up having to do some fancy stuff around the WinUI head, overriding the main, because the Uno head leverages the WinUI stuff, which doesn't have a main method, and then you have to do some extra stuff to get a main method, and round and round and round we go. It's ugly, right? But it made it work. The other thing that is not covered here is I only went through and showed producing out the installers for a single target. The I want to, when we actually put this into the Velopack docs, I want to actually write out and show the docs showing publishing for like both the desktop, the WinUI, and the Mac head. I want all three of those, and show all of that working. So I think that'll go a long way to doing it. So at some point, I'm gonna get that going, because I want this to be a nice solid thing. And then more importantly, the Velopack Flow hosted service works great once it was going. So hoorah. I've also been contemplating pushing the material design demo app into it, just as that way I can have a realish app and I can see what, like, I kind of want to get users hitting on it so I can see where the potential problems are. So you all might get to be my guinea pigs. Congratulations. So that's where it is. So if anyone's interested, the sample is in the main Velopack repo under samples. There's a README underneath the Uno sample, and all of this lovely stuff in here. Okay. So a couple things. One, I posted out to the maintainers asking if people had anything they wanted to try to get in for the 5.1 release, and then immediately PR started circling the fences. So yeah, so there's a lot of this. And so Joris has been doing amazing. Yeah, this is definitely a proven run type situation. This is technically a breaking API change. Do I care? Do I care? It's breaking in that it's switching from a double to a thickness. However, it's going to be a source level backwards compatible change if people are only using this in the XAML, which is probably like nearly everybody. So I'm kind of tempted to not care that it's a breaking API change, because when you type in a thickness object in XAML, you do like 9,9 or just straight 9, right? And it goes through and works. So anybody who's specifying it in the XAML now currently is specifying a single number, which will still translate to a thickness, unless they're accessing this in code, in which case then they have a compiler. I'm going to label it release notes. This will be my compromise. I'm going to label it release notes and call it out, but then I'm going to let it go. Then we're going to let auto merge take this one. Okay. Next up. Let's see. Fix for bug explained here. Was introduced here. Is it me? Did I make the mistake? Oh, no. Let's see here. To fix this this code properly. Let's see here. Let's see. In the v5, how to reproduce. Card's padding is double, despite the fact that both of them. Let's just look at. So card with a padding of 6, and then border with a padding of 6. Ah, okay. Something internally is adding extra. Oh, because content presenter is probably getting padding on top. Yeah, that'll do it. Because card derives from content control. Hey, are we? Where's the padding? I'm looking for a padding binding. Oh yeah, so there's the doubling. One's there, one's there. Just make sure that the removal of this one is the right place. Because there's a subtle difference between removing this line and removing this line here. Right? I'm sorry, that text is tiny. Um because this thing is clipping. Actually, this thing is going to clip on its outside. Take that back. Given the other properties, I don't think it matters which one gets removed. I think visually they will be identical. The obviously changing it here allows the content to get bigger, which means if your content's doing size and stuff, that could affect it, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think, yeah, I think this is perfectly fine. I am wondering if this warrants a UI test or not. Wondering if this warrants a UI test. Nikolai approved it. So you know what? We're just gonna send it. We've got enough other stuff to get done. I'm gonna call this a bug. This was that is already been run. We'll let that guy go. Great. Okay, next. I realize I'm doing these in the wrong order. Usually you should review PRs chronologically, but whatever. Okay, forward relevant dependency properties to the nested button. Which bug is this? Okay, some properties in split button are unable to be changed without overriding the style. Right. Okay, so split button was a new control that we added. Yes, that's right. We had some discussion. Um, yeah, that's a good point. Well, let's see. Let's see. So snap to device pixels. You use layout rounding. Let's see. Content string format. Actually, you know what? Big head, go to the other side. Let's see. Content string format, content template, selector, font size, family, stretch, font style, font weight, vertical content alignment. What is it applied to? The vertical content is being applied to the right button. What about the left button? Oh, vertical content alignment's right there. Okay. Perfect. Yep. Send it. Looks good to me. Let's see. Let's make sure this guy is also in the milestone. It is. Thank you, Nikolai. Squash merge, squash merge. Tonight's release is going to have lots of stuff in it. Okay. Well, let's see. Fixes 3568. Let's see. A similar change was done to all other controls. Linked issue. The changes here seem like they may have been forgotten. They reproduce the issue by modifying the demo app and the changes below, along with actually setting the attached property at the window level. The workaround mentioned in the original 2006 fixes. This is probably here. Oh, yep, yeah. This is. Oh. Oh. Interesting. I crap. I don't know if I saved. I don't know if I actually even got his contact information. I talked to somebody at the build conference. They had the most bizarre WPF problem I'd ever seen. They were working in some ye olde framework where you weren't writing the code directly. You were writing in this intermediate state or intermediate language thing, but it was generating a WPF app. It was like old school poor man's source generator thing, but the output was a WPF app. They were using a third party control library, and only when they RDP'd into a box, went through a series of steps, one of which was opening a secondary window where some of the third party controls were used, then locking the screen and coming back, their app would hang. Their app would hang. Oh man, I wish I'd remembered this issue. I wish I'd remembered this issue. Now they may end up tracking it down because my working theory in my mind, I was like, it feels like the reproduction steps are requiring you to bring a particular control into play and then trigger the problem. And so we were gonna start effectively binary searching the XAML looking for the problematic guy. Um, and he never came back to chat with me after that because he said he was going to go try it and then circle back because it was one of those just chance encounters where he's like, I'm looking for a WPF expert. Do you know anybody? I'm like, I dabble. I dabble in WPF a little bit. I might be able to help. Let's see. Cache mode binding was not implemented on the slider. I'm updating that as well for. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be adding in the same fix. Yep, so there's the slider, and I am noticing that this is specifically, this is material design 3 here. So this is only going to handle one of them. And yeah, it doesn't shock me that we missed one of these. This is rating bar in the regular one. Then same fix in the slider for the material design 2 one. Okay, good to me. Squash merge, squash merge. Okay, we are just gonna clear some stuff out. Yeah, Nikolai did great. Pretty much plowing through all this stuff. Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go, there we go. Okay. Validation air template XAML into the merge resource dictionary. Oh, did I? Oh, Nikolai, I'm sorry. I may have messed this one up. Okay, so, dependency property not valid. Oh. In the merge resource dictionary because it's statically referenced in the toggle button style using. Oh. Yeah, that's. I don't want to say I'm to blame, but I have a sinking suspicion I'm to blame for this one. Make sure this is in the milestone. Yep. Way to go, Nikolai. Absolutely killed it. Okay. Still building. Still going. Okay. Well, about what you've done. Okay. Why didn't I approve this one? This one interests me. Oh, good. This should have been switched in the. Done with a. Um. By doing this. Man, I'm gonna hit approve and run. The one thing I want to go check this one out though. I want to make sure that because this is changing palette.json, I'm hoping that after this change, the generator was run, but let's go validate that real quick. Let's see. Check out. My head back on the other side. Wait a minute. Hey, open. Boop. Oh, do I not have to run one? A pending change. This was my data grid stuff. Um, this is actually a bug though. I noticed in some of our commented out code, it's still using the old name, not the new name. But I'm also noticing I got my comments wrong right here, so we'll stash it. I may try to slip that in here in a second. Okay, so the one thing I want to validate is that when I rerun the generator, so this resource generator is the consumer of this palette.json. You set this as your startup project. Underneath properties, we have this launch settings.json. So you can see I've kind of because this is a console application, I've pre-canned some command line args that I want to do. So you can see generate theming, generate icons, generate swatches, generate brushes, right? So I want to just run this because in theory it should not have any extra changes, right? And then the other thing I want to do is I want to run gen brushes, maybe gen swatches. I just want to make sure I've caught everything. that one. Then we're just going to look at the diff and make sure that there's no files. It was 18. You got to stash and then double check. What are the additional? White space on the last line, which we don't care about. That thing is an artifact of not being run since the project rename. Project rename. Project rename. Okay, so no consequential differences. That's fine then. Okay, so that's good. So after the change to the JSON file, there's no additional generation. None of these changes look problematic to me. We are going to approve this one. Let autocomplete do its thing. Okay. Doris, this has been great work, by the way. Reach out and say thank you. Okay. So we're gonna enable auto merge. Wash. We're off to the races. Okay, let's do the okay, so this is the one that has been sitting open that I want to double check. So to be clear, the change here is perfectly fine. However, what I am wanting to confirm, and I'll just for people's memory, since I stared at this for a minute before I actually figured out what was going on. Right? So this goes here. Back no back that. Get out of here. What's all on those tabs, but I want to just share something. Okay, so the change here is very, very subtle, right? Wow, that's edge. Make up your mind. Okay, so the change here is real subtle. So you'll note you can kind of see this. Do this. Get off of there. Okay, this, right, and then let's see. If to draw an arrow, yeah. Here we go. So ignore that arrow. That arrow. So you see that teeny little extra space doesn't exist here, right? So the difference is when you're applying the padding, whether you apply the padding conceptually kind of inside the scroll viewer or outside of it, right? Because the padding here is shrinking the size of the viewport of the scroll viewer versus the padding here on the right is being applied to the content inside of the scroll viewer. So it just kind of makes you have more stuff to scroll, right? If you were to add top padding of 100, you'd have 100 extra pixels that you could scroll up and down through. Versus here, you cut off your content by 100 pixels, right? So left is current, right is proposed change. And I'm not opposed to the right. The part that I'm not confident in is what default WPF behavior is. And that I want to go check. Because at the end of the day, this is all about padding on a scroll viewer, right? And what the behavior should be. Yeah, keep the one on the left. Well, so I think the correct answer is going to be whatever default WPF behavior is probably the answer I want to go with. Because I want this to no, that's not it. Right? Okay. mkdir scroll viewer test. Right? Because I want it to be the material design library, one, follows material design spec first, WPF default second. Like those are kind of the guiding principles so that if you bring it into an existing WPF application, you don't get massively different behavior on the built-in controls. Like that's not a great experience. Okay. .NET new WPF. You'll know, not my template. We're going to do default standard WPF template. Yeah. No, not. My muscle memory really, when I see the stuff come up, I really want tab to be take the suggestion, not right arrow. Like my finger's not near the right arrow. Right arrow is not in my muscle memory. Why are we doing this? Okay, so am I doing this? What is, right, so we're gonna go here. We're gonna do a grid, grid dot column definitions. Here, column definition. Yep. Okay, 2 columns, 2 grids. Put a scroll viewer, right? And then the argument here is around padding, and we're gonna do padding of, I don't know, 50. Make it big and obvious, right? And then inside of here, we're gonna do a border. No, border. We're gonna do height of 1,000 and width of, I don't know, 200. Matter. No, 500. I don't know why I did the second column. For some reason I had in my head that I needed to test 2 things, but I'm realizing I only really need to test the one thing. What default behavior is. Oh, right. And if you don't give your border a color, you can't see it. Right. So let's go background red here. Background, let's do light blue here. And so we'll do that. Okay. The padding on a scroll viewer default WPF behavior applies to the viewport. Right, so let's try this. Text block. And then, okay, Copilot, now's your time to shine. Now is your time to shine. Write 100 lines of random test text here. Go. Go, Copilot. Make up something useful. I can only assume you're about to do Latin. Come on. I could have Googled for the Latin already. Maybe I should have been more explicit in my prompt. I know AI is bad at counting, so sometimes you ask for 100 and it's not always accurate. The problem when you let AI be creative. Sure. Now, we're going to have to work on your definition of 100 lines, but you know what? Here's what we do. We do this, right? Text wrapping, wrap, boom. Yeah. So I think we reject the change. I think we do. I'm just trying to decide because on one hand, yeah, like I like most of this. Corresponding example shows the unexpected cutoff text because of the padding. Yeah. What was the ticket here? Scroll viewer padding. Currently, the padding of a scroll viewer is because we have this attached property, which is making things a little more interesting. Is ignored using because the padding otherwise would result in too early cutoff on the content when scrolling. Um, yeah, because I get the idea is so the simple way to solve this problem is you apply it to the thing inside the scroll viewer, right? You give it a margin. But that's not a solution that applies generically. You make it configurable. I mean, it's always possible to make it configurable. It's always, this is one of the hard areas of figuring out what is the best thing, because we do have this scroll viewer assist ignore padding. I want to go look at what I want to understand the implementation of it a little better, because I think that's muddying the waters um in terms of what is actually there. I think it's meant to be an internal property, if I remember right. Because occasionally we want to set it differently. Scroll viewer assist, ignore padding. Is it? Wait. Oh, there's. I'm like, is it ever used? I'm just blind and stupid. Okay, so if ignore padding is false, right? If ignore padding is false, then the margin of the scroll content presenter gets the padding set. Yeah. Then content padding. Silly. Yeah, yeah. It's really tempted to change it to something like that. It's the other drawback with a lot of configurable options, and this bit us quite a bit with Xbox before Nikolai did a bunch of cleanup, is there was so many configurable switches that trying to test because every time you add a switch, the complexity of the combination of this, or specifically whenever you add a switch that interacts with something else, the number of possible configurations, it goes up, what is it, exponentially, right? Because you go 1, 4, 9, and it just keeps skyrocketing, right? Because the value squared, which is sucky beyond belief. Because I think on text block we got to 4 or 5, and that was at the unmanageable level. Like, it's like I just, we kept getting bugs of, oh, if you configure these two on and this one off, it doesn't work. It's like, oh dear heavens, don't do that. Because some of them also like didn't make sense together, and it was weird. Yeah, I'm tempted not, because this is when false, the padding is applied to the presenter, and when it's true, the padding will be ignored, which makes sense with the name. The padding will not get applied. Because in this case, the idea is wanting to change the padding, because there's technically not that big of a. We don't set padding in here, do we, by default? We do. Here's the thing: the default value of this padding, I believe, not selection. The default value of padding, I believe, is 0 in here, and that's what's giving me pause, right? Because this sample code thing is, he's got his ignore padding false. Yeah. Yeah, this is hard because I do kind of like the change, but I also don't like that it's different from WPF's. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna punt this out of here. I'm not gonna close it because it feels like I want some discussion on this, but I am gonna punt it from the current release. Andrew, welcome, welcome, welcome. I feel like I had a question for you, Andrew. There was some WinUI stuff I was doing the other day, and I got bit, and I was like, oh, I bet you Andrew has a video on this, and I forgot. I It'll come back to me. Let's see. Padding equal control, content padding equal content. Then you can edit to a sensible default. Yeah, something like that might be a possibility. Maybe I'll float that in here as well. Let's see. I did a bit more digging on this one. Oh, what was the question? No, that's the problem, Andrew, is I can't remember. I was I was doing some work on Uno last week, and they they operate very similar with multiple heads, like how old school Xamarin Forms used to work. And one of them is a WinUI head, and I think the fact that I was inside of Uno was making my life slightly more confusing because I was trying to translate from what they were doing in their CS proj, and I was trying to remember what I was trying to get at. There was some, and I remember thinking to myself, I should go and I remember thinking that I thought you had a video on whatever problem I was hitting, and I don't remember what it was. I think it was something with the window Chrome, if I remember right. Because I think I saw that you posted a video on doing like custom window Chrome, didn't you? Thought I did. See, you have here. Whoop, grab your thing. I think where is your for people? Also, it's been a while, Andrew. I think you need a shout out on your YouTube channel. So, for anybody who's at all interested in WinUI related stuff, Andrew puts out some good content. So, if you are doing anything related to WinUI, WinUI 3, go check out his channel. Give him a sub because that is one of the places I go to look for WinUI content because it is good stuff. So, yeah, no problem, Andrew. You do great work. I love it. Okay. Was let's see. The current behavior matches the default WPF scroll viewer, so I bit to change that. Um, that said, I can desire to be able to uh solution with a attached property for what did you call it, Izzy? Content padding? Yeah. Attached property for content padding. Um so that the two concept That's yeah, because like I said, I don't want to reject the PR because I kind of like where it's going, but I also don't want to break stuff. Okay. That handles that. I know you're really excited on this one, Izzy. We're gonna circle back to it in a minute. There's one more issue I want to dig into because this is the one that scares me a little bit. The new colors one. Just want to double check. Let's do I think a lot of these things we can let's see. This one we haven't been able to get a good explanation for. So this one I think I'm going to just immediately punt into 5.2, or a couple of these we're going to just throw out. That one I want to look at. Let's see. This is waiting on feedback. How old is this? December 29th. Let's see. February. This was 2 days ago, so this is fine, but I think Nikolai is right with the attached property, so I suspect that's just going to be a resolved question. Scroll viewer assistant tree view. I think the attached property do not apply to the tree view control. Um, yeah, I don't. Yeah, the ignore padding not being applied is more a like it's not being applied and it's not intentional, but it's that that one we may or may not just go fix. This guy, this is the issue. I'm gonna move that 5-2. We'll let it get reevaluated. Let's see. This guy here is gonna get punted to 5-2 because so far the memory dumps we haven't gotten anything actionable out of. Let's see. Time view is not the same as runtime. Yeah, this is. Yeah, we'll double check this. This may or may not be completely fixable either. Because I suspect it's the designer just being dumb. Okay, so that said, where did this one? This is the guy. So this is the one that I'm very intrigued to test with. And it's very convenient that they called out at least several test cases. But have you gotten very quiet? I don't think so. Checking, checking, checking. Test, test, test. Hang on. Believe it or not, we have the capabilities. Let me know if that's better for you, Izzy. Because at least on my end, it shows that my output stream should be roughly the same volume. Okay, let's see. Clearly see in the dark mode. Let's see. This all doesn't really match the material that's doing. It doesn't go from lowest surface to highest surface. Let's see. Oh, sorry, one moment, please. My button. Um, these surface ones intrigue me because I don't think we have these. I used the lowest layer of the app, but now it doesn't work anymore for that. In light mode, instead, the situation wasn't great either. I'm wondering if these are ones that the person who uses surfaces lowest to highest like this. Background toolbar paper card. Yeah, and this is one of the issues that we have is so in material design, they don't they talk about everything at these different layers all the way through, which works well to a point. Um, over the beeping doors. Yeah, so these surface brushes are ones that um are ones that they've defined, which is fine. It's just the problem with the surfaces doesn't work very well in practice inside of a WPF application because you can't do surfaces at the surface level like that in some cases. Like things end up getting on top of others based upon their control. And so because we have so having surface brushes like this, totally fine. This probably works. The problem is when you try to associate these to control level ones, the only way you can say something like toolbar, then paper, then card is if you are diligent about how you use each of these controls, which doesn't always play out nicely. Maybe with a couple more surfaces. Could be used in some way to change the color, but I wouldn't know how. Yeah, I wouldn't want to use elevation because elevation is a drop shadow, and it's not. Even though it's designed to show distance, it's not designed to control the distance. Let's see. We could keep by fixing colors so that all more, maybe with a couple more surfaces. Yeah, so proposed background. And I don't think you actually want this. I don't go look. Material design. I don't think their proposed background goes all the way black. Because this proposal of black 1000 is like solid black. And I'm fairly confident that theirs is like you can even see here some of these things just visually looking at it, these aren't pure black. Because it's not pure black and not pure white, because that's very jarring. Unless you're going for a like a high contrast theme or similar. Let's see, built-in dark theme colors. And it's worth noting, depending, like some of these things could be getting bit. Oh, that's an interesting thing that I didn't think about. If you have the automatic color contrast system going in, that which is, I don't think it's on by default. That will definitely mess with this. Okay. The color rolls, yeah. Yeah, and this is where this gets hard for me, right? Is if you follow material design strictly, I don't know which of these brushes apply to which controls because I'm a library, not an app. An app can make that decision, a library can't. So it gets very challenging. Um yeah, primary, secondary, tertiary, yep, air, surface. Yeah, so these are going to be yeah, do they have static baseline colors? Figma using the material design. Oh, that's the kind of just didn't want to have to actually go through Figma all the way. Primary colors, secondary, surface colors, surface on surface. Here we go. That's what we're looking for. So these are more akin to where we want things to land. And I'm not opposed to genning these brushes. I'm thinking I probably don't want to gen these brushes. Gen these brushes on controls. Because you'll note like the surface tint is somewhat driven by this guy. Right? Outline colors, outline variant. Yeah, and that's one of the hard parts here is as a library, I can't always make the right decision because I don't know how something's going to be used. So we have to pick a default and go with it and trust that app developers will fix it. Okay, but I think there's a couple things here that can probably be addressed. One, um, I think paper's dead to begin with. It is, except for they brought in. Okay, so a couple things. I think the obsolete ones I want to review. So these don't look that old paper, new paper. They're a little different. The old and new toolbars look darn near identical if I was guessing. Like, I don't even see the seam between those two. But, like, the paper, I can see the seam in the middle, right? It's right there. But I cannot see it. The background one is the one that confuses me the most because that one feels like that one should be that far off. So, and on light theme, it seems fine. I can't see the seam there. Could just be my bad eyes, but I'm very far zoomed in. Toolbar is close. Paper's wrong. Card looks fine to me. So I'm wondering. I think we need to review the background brush in dark theme on the obsolete brushes, because that is probably biting us. I want to review card. We should probably review toolbar and paper and light theme. Heck, we'll review this one too. Why not? I'd like to understand how those things got that far off. We can look about creating new brushes. One of the other things that's interesting is right now we do not have. Let's see, duplicate. We do not have separate brushes for Material Design 2 and Material Design 3. So that gets to be a little more interesting. The color system. I don't think this one has. I don't think this one has the nice surface colors, does it? 2014 color palette. Because these are the colors, but I'm looking for the actual. Like, they have these grays. And. Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, I might split this issue into two parts. Because one part is the obsolete shim is not working properly. That I can say is a straight bug. The implementing the additional brushes, that is probably worth doing. Um yeah. Yeah, and the so to answer the question on how colors were chosen, uh I don't want to say randomly, but the color system was originally based on Material Design 2 because this library started before it existed. And so the 50 steps don't exist beyond the first one. So they were originally based on this. Is the short answer to this question. So, and I don't think, and with Material Design 3, they got rid of those things in favor of just defining these, because it's nice for a library to provide that level of granularity, but it's not actually needed for an app. Like, an app isn't going to use all those. They're going to define basically these and be done. right? And so this is actually one of the things that at one point we were building out a theme builder, and I kind of want to circle back to that at some point because the library has lots of these brushes, but most of the time I don't think people need all of them. Like I am tempted to build a little thing that generates you a little theme.xaml file that you can just drop in and be done, right? Because I could also make it a little more efficient too. Um, let's see. Also, a simple way to substitute the default themes with custom ones. Um, yeah. So, if you are wanting a custom theme on this one, the solution would be don't go through the C Sharpie side. This is a convenience for people who want to use the built-in stuff. If you're wanting a custom one, what you do is you go within your app, right? In your app.xaml, you just specify the resource dictionaries, and then you're done. Right? So if you want your own custom resource dictionary, you do this, and then you're done. Right? The alternative is if you want to do it in code, you can get a hold of one of these things and build up the generated C# file, which just has all of the brushes in code that you can set, and go from there. And there's some convenience methods on that to set everything. This is also why building a theme builder thingy would be nice, because we're getting quite a few brushes. Like, I don't expect people to actually write them all. What I expect most people would do is go to the repo, copy the one that's there, change the values they care about, and drop that into their thing. But we could have a theme builder do the same thing. Okay, so obsolete brushes being far off, that is the bug that we want to address today. The rest of this ticket we will address at a later point. Okay, so you don't care anymore. Go away. Don't care. Go away. Thank you. Okay, so I want to test the. How is a good way for me to test the V4 brushes and the new ones? I think the easiest way for me to do this is to just grab the demo app for V5 and the demo app for V4 and call it good. That's probably the easiest way for me to compare these things. Okay, so we're going to grab that one, and then we're going to go releases, and we'll go back and grab v4.9 assets, app. Okay, we're going to do that. I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to just start renaming some of these things so that I can keep track of which one's which. Hang on. Let's go here. Copy, 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 copy. Okay, so V5, and then I realize you can't see, so stand by. Copy, paste. Okay, so, and then this will be V4. Okay, we got V4, V5. Let's go look at the, sure. Launch that. No, I trust it. I literally just downloaded my own an app. Okay, so there's V4. We're going to put V4 on the left. And then I'm realizing it'd be really nice if my demo apps came with, we'll compare Net 7 to Net 7. Not that it should make a difference. The demo app really should have the version on it somewhere, like title or the heading bar or something. Okay, so there. Okay, I mean, the first thing I'm noticing, those don't look that far off to me, but go. Let's see. Where is, let's check palette, I guess. And this was a bug I think we have fixed. No, we should go fix it. Um, I'm having trouble. Okay, we're gonna just have to start snooping these things because I'm not seeing the differences. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Screenshot. Grab this. Right. We're gonna go paint. This sucker over here, and then we go paste, expand. Yeah, sure, great. Crop. Okay, so show me the difference between this color, this color. Okay, so they are different. Information links on the demo app are broken. They are, Andrew. They they should be fixed in latest main. What the the unfortunate I just can't fix it in old versions of the demo app. We reorganized the repo, and so there's not a great way to update links. So like the break for most of them is things moved inside of an SRC directory. Like that change there is what broke most things through there. But latest master should have a fix for it. Because that was a breaking change. We reorganized the repo and decided to just do a scorched earth approach. Okay, so let's check the card then up above. There. No, no, no. Don't never apologize for the interruption. I love them. Okay, so there is some slight differences. 69, 66. Okay. There are a handful of tiny things here. So then I guess the question is which brush is at play on these? So let's go here. Let's go here. And then I am interested in, I think this is going to float me all the way up to the top. So we're going to just go until we find it. It's probably at the window. Probably all the way at the top. For people who are curious what I'm doing, it's just left arrow. And I'm intentionally watching this background property. Because at some point, it's going to get set to a dark color. And I think it's going to get set to a dark color at the very top level. Retrospect, starting there. Okay, so it's set at the border of the main window, which is a template item of the main window itself, which means it is set here, right? So material design paper. So this is should be 32, 32, 32. I think if we go here, yes, that is the hex value we got there, 32s. Okay, so that means that the obsolete brush 4 is on the left. We check this one, and we look at the same thing, and I'm just going to skip straight to main window and go to background. 30 from 32. Okay, so there is a shift. The old one was 30. So how can I go through and find all of the differences of what the brushes used to be? And I could do them one by one. That's just really bloody annoying. Actually, I guess I've got a list here, don't I? I've got a list. We could just grab them from in here. So that's defaults. Let's see here. One of these guys contains. Yep. So here is all the values. We could just check them this way. If we go color, and we could just walk down the obsolete brushes and just check them because we want them to match whatever the v4 was. Let's do that. That's probably just as easy as anything else. And then we can fix all of the obsolete brushes to make them match what v49 was, which is as far back as I'm willing to support. Let's see here. Themes. Let's see here. Okay. So. Oh, but this is not. Oh, that's why. This isn't meant to fix the colors. It's meant to fix the brush names. That is interesting. That is very, very interesting. Because when we collapse the colors, there wasn't a direct correlation to all of them. Okay. Okay, I just decided this one's getting punted. Because and I arguably need to clean up the wording in this because I just spent a bunch of time looking at this, not realizing that new colors don't match old V4 colors. I should have inferred from this that this was expected. So them not matching the old is completely expected. Because we had inconsistencies in the colors in V4 and we standardized them in V5. So I can't actually put the old ones back because that would just put the inconsistencies back. Um yeah, I'm going to have to I'll spend some time putting together an actual thoughtful reply here because this is one that needs to be thought through. But it is not one that needs to be worked on for a V5 one. We're going to punt it to V5 2. Okay. Poof, look at that. Look at that. See, milestones get smaller. Okay, what's left in here? 7 open. Leave that for the moment. This one here is interesting. When row span property is used. Let's see. I have an expander, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this seems bad. Let's test it real quick. So what is the setup here? We've got a grid with some columns and shared size scopes enabled on them. I'm immediately noticing width of auto, which is a recipe for disaster with expanders. Let's see, in one of these grids, I have an image using the row span and column span. Okay. Row 0. It bothers me that only the grid columns are shown and the bug is with row span. Okay. Row span property. Compiled solution seems to temporarily solve the problem, but any attempt to edit the XAML causes the problem again. Well, let's see if we can reproduce this really quick, because this is an easy thing to test. But I have a hunch this isn't going to be easily reproducible. because I suspect it's going to be highly specific to clear this out. I don't want to look at you. Away. Let's see, expander. Because I suspect the issue is potentially row span and not knowing the height of these. But I have a feeling I know how to recreate this. I have a hunch I know how to recreate this. And it's probably difficult inside of here because of how we structure our stuff. Because ours are inside of a stack panel, and a stack panel inherently collapses to content. Let's see here. So let's just grab an expander. And let's just whack the whole thing. The grid row definitions. Row definitions, height auto. Right? It's going to be something of this nature. Then it's going to be the something of this nature. And then it's going to be something like grid row span 4. Right? Yeah, I think this is going to require more detailed explanation. So to provide more details or a sample repo, fact the issue is with the expander trying to know the size of its container when you have auto set. But in the code above, it is only showing the grid columns. Would be helpful to see a repo reduces the issue. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to do, let's see, let's go with waiting on feedback. And then we are going to pick the evaluation and we are going to punt to done. So much easier when you just punt issues. Let's see. Design view is not the same as runtime. This one is very interesting to me. Specifically because, let's see, I set up a fresh project exactly as the getting started. And there's a discrepancy in how it's displayed from light to dark. Let's go and check this because, like, I think this is, it's probably the exact behavior that we're seeing here. Right? Like, if I launch this demo app, I'm willing to bet this expander shows white text rather than dark text. Going to guess that that is the case. And I strongly suspect that it is related to designer being dumb. Let's see. So if we go expander, yeah, so it has white text. So same bug still exists. So the bug is there. Problem is there anything we can actually do to fix this? So it's interesting to me that I mean this one down here is showing the incorrect one. I think the solution here is probably just doing, so this is something worth noting. One of the coolest tricks that you can do is you can set design time properties, and people are usually familiar with this design height, design width, because those show up in the default templates. But you can actually do d colon anything you want. So you can do d colon foreground red, right? Now my foreground is red, but my foreground is only red during design time. This is the cool part. Like, you can do d colon anything you would like, right? And it will work for design time stuff, but not runtime stuff. So the question then is, how does it know to pick up the darker color for the background, but not the darker color for the text? It is probably because, and actually I think we can go even simpler, right? We can probably do text block, text foo, right? We can probably get it all the way down to this simple. If we turn this off, right? Really, really hard to see, but there is in fact foo right there, right? And it's only dark because it's seen that. If I go here and I change the default theme from inherit to light, I don't think that doesn't change the background of this. So this is just an artifact of how the designer works and not something that we can actually fix. But I think sharing this trick is something that would go a long way. Because they did go through and set this. You know, let's double check it at the window level, because this is the control. The uh let's see. Into this after the v5 release. I don't think there is a lot library can do to fix it. However, you can oh, isn't the designer set based on your OS theme and not your app thing? I think it's based on your IDE theme. But I think your IDE theme, it either follows your OS or defaults to match or similar. I don't remember. But that's a good point. Let's test that. Because if I go through and do tools, options, right? And I go through and change my theme. If I change this to the default blue, right? And this is where it gets, oh my word, I forgot what Visual Studio looks like when I do this. Ugh. It's if I do this, and we zoom this sucker in, right? It has nice light text. This light text is because it's on the white border. Like, it doesn't change to dark. Um, and if I go through here, just like, what are you talking about? Oh, this is probably the one that merged. Do this. Text, block, text, foo. There we go. Boom. All right, so the text here is dark on light. And then if I go tools, options, and I switch this guy back to dark theme, the designer doesn't even update. Or is this thing set to light? This thing is set to light. That's interesting. Hang on. May have spoke too soon. Um, it does know about it. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Something's weird here. That's kind of cool. That is very cool. Well, hold on. What were these screenshots then? Let me see this. What's interesting me most is these three little boxes up here in the corner. Is that what my window designer looks like? I'm curious as to now. I'm also running preview Visual Studio things. That surprises me. Maybe I'll ask the poster to retest. Uh, was hoping you to retest. The behavior that I see is that the designer does follow the uh, theme colors, but only when viewing the window. Uh, User goals will not follow the theme colors. For these, you can always set up design time colors using the one prefix, something like this. And then we go like this. I do this. I do this. Preview. And we go comment. Great. Then we're going to kick this back to waiting on feedback. Then we're going to punt you over to 5.2. Then the problem goes away. Oops. That's too many tabs. So I discovered the other day that not everybody knows about the Control-Shift-T shortcut. So I believe in every major browser, like Control-T is new tab, right? But when you accidentally close it and you go, oh no, Control-Shift-T brings back your last tab. Very, very handy. Let's see. I don't think. The focus was always set correctly. Yeah. This one has gone around and round and round. I think though this may be a dupe of. Let me look at the stuff that's already in because I think this one's actually done. Um. Uh. Dialogue. No, there was some work that was done in here. Let's see here. Multiple tabs? No. Because I remember going through and fixing a dialogue focusing issue. And it was round and round and round. I will go check it. Okay. Okay, Izzy, you get your wish. Let's go through and fix this up. Let's fix it because I think Nikolai left some good feedbacks. One of the padding parameters. Okay, so I'm gonna collapse. These ones are all a little off. And let's see. So we want PR 3175. So let's go here. Do I want any of my current No, no, and so throw those away. Okay, 3175. Add remote and checkout. Then we are going to collapse this down. I would like to rebase this guy onto master. Hey, Pikachu, welcome. Oh, no problem whatsoever. We've just been having lots of fun trying to get the material design stuff for the 5.1 release done. So, lots of code reviews, lots of fixings. What? Oh. This is interesting. This is very, very interesting because I need these files to be in a different place. Yeah, so let's keep new version. In these cases, I think test worst case scenario, we have to redo this whole thing. Yeah, because I think the issue is these guys are. Let's go look and see how badly I just botched my rebase. Because I think the let's see, it's gonna be. Oh, this is the issue about old things. So. Oh, did I just whack the thing that I needed? Dang it. Hard. Okay, so I actually need to bring that file down. So, boom, boom, boom. We want to grab this guy here, back up, go in here, go in here, go in here, paste. That should get him into the right place. Then we can whack this. Yeah, that goes away. The other one appears to have moved appropriate. Two is empty. Let's see. Red, blue. Red, blue. We're going red. Red it is. Let's see here. So, let's open the solution and see how badly we're broken. Okay, step one. Do you compile? I mean, we did just rebase after a major refactor of the repo, so you know, that's never an easy thing to do. Thankfully, though, we did like Michael when he did it. He was very kind and intentionally kept rebasing his big refactor branch until we got a lot of our major PRs in, and then we're like, okay, now do it. So we knew everything was gonna break, but it was intentional, and it ended up not being nearly as bad as we expected. Like there was just a handful. Oh, you really? Hang on. Okay, does the file exist? The file exists. That's cool. And the theme file made it in where I expected. LMN N is there. Okay, so let's fire up the demo app, see how it goes. Then we will see if we have a numeric spinner. Numbers. Okay. Plus, minus, the numbers go up and down. Just like we planned it. Okay. That's horribly exciting. Okay, so let's get here. I want to go back and review the comments that were on here. Let's see. Let's see. This will not mark the event is handled if delta is 0. Nikolai, that is a wonderful comment. Yeah, that would be annoying. Acid Rain, how you doing, buddy? We are attempting to get the numeric up-down control working. I think Nikolai is correct that this is bad, and that on mouse wheel, we want to set handle to true in all cases, not just when delta is non-zero. I do wonder if it's actually possible to get this event to trigger where delta is equal to 0. Because that would mean that you moved your mouse wheel a delta of 0. But if your delta is 0, how did your mouse wheel move? So I kind of wonder if 0 is even possible. But regardless, setting it to handle true in all cases, I think, is the appropriate thing. Okay. Right. And then the command problem, yes. The command should be changing it. Yes. That was, I think Kevin wrote this while he was lacking Mountain Dew. Which is, yeah. I think I was having a brain fart. Okay. Okay, so minimum, maximum, increase command property. Yeah, decrease command property. Yeah, so this was me just being dumb. And we should be consistent here. I kind of like null over default of interface. I think it's a little more explicit. Okay, and so the idea here is there are multiple types of commands inside of WPF. iCommand is the base interface for all of them. And I talk about this in some of my MVVM videos. The big issue is iCommand, when they made WPF, they didn't provide an implementation of iCommand that's expected to be used in your view models. Dumb, in my opinion. Like, that feels like a very basic thing that should. However, what they did do is they provided an implementation of iCommand that is expected to be used for controls. Helpful in our case because we are building a control. So if we go something like dialog host, I think is probably a better situation, right? So rather than having, like, my brain immediately made me think that this was a view model type situation, and I was like, oh, of course I set it up like this. But if you look at the way like the commands are set up in dialog host, this is what Nikolai is driving at, which is the more better way if you're building a control. Is you don't expose up a dependency property like this. What you do is you expose up a routed command, and then more importantly, if we look at the usages of these guys, you set up a routed command handler via this. Let's see. Doing very well, thank you. Set out to recreate AOL Instant Messenger front and back end from scratch using C++. But building blue slibs were causing problems. Lots of header issues. In C sharp, no more C++ for me. That is awesome. So when you say AOL Instant Messenger, do you mean the actual AOL Instant Messenger, or are you just talking like a messenger clone? And welcome, Apollo. But yes, so the idea here is you have the routed commands, and a routed command doesn't do anything by default. But once you have a command binding that wires it up to something, now it can do something. Right? So this is the proper way to do it. So this is the other thing that Nikolai very accurately pointed out of, and he said it nicely. He didn't go with the Kevin, you're a moron approach, which would have been accurate, but this is what we want to actually do. We're gonna come over here, and I think I'm gonna bring these guys up here. I generally like, I like grouping. Let's see. We're gonna go here, and we're gonna do we're gonna get rid of this doc because it's wrong, and then we're gonna copy paste that sucker, and decrease command is gonna be here. And then you'll note on dialog host, we don't register for, or I should say, the registration for the handler occurs in the instance constructor, not the static one. Very important. Let's see here. It's a full clone. I've been doing a lot of research on how Oscar protocol worked through some reverse engineering, commonsensical 1997 techniques for WebSockets, TC flags, so it's very close. However, JSON didn't exist back then, so I'm cheating slightly. I think that's very appropriate. I will say, way back in the day, like AOL Instant Messenger was my jam. Like I used it a lot, and I didn't stay on the AOL client very long. There was a lovely library. It might still exist. Hang on, look. Library called Pigeon. Oh, don't just search for pigeon. You get pictures of birds. Not what we're going for here. Uh, there and yes, yes, this. This was yeah, yeah. Brings back memories. Pikachu, you date yourself. For everybody who goes, AIM, what is like? Some people don't even know what that is. And yes, the old open source messenger. This was my happy place. So ICQ. Okay, you're gonna date yourself even further with ICQ. I have used it. I will say that I am younger than most people who used ICQ. We'll go with that. I guess it kind of depends on what circles you ran in. Like there was an overlapping period. But yes, I very much, yeah, Trillium, the paid competitor to Pigeon. Yeah, exactly. But I like at the time I was very well, one, I was a poor college student, and so free and open source strongly appealed to me. But yeah, Pigeon was so much fun. I remember spending a lot of time. I had certain friends that were very predictable, and Pigeon had this nice auto reply functionality. And so I would set up as many auto reply, because you could set it up to where it's like if the person says X, reply with Y type situation. Basically, very simple if then statements for Messenger. But I would set it up with so many triggers and just see how long I could have a conversation go with somebody before they realized I wasn't actually typing to them. It was great. Some of them figured it out because the if then logic would fire instantly, and if it was too long of a message, they would immediately know, oh, Kevin's not there. That message came through immediately. There, I know he can't type that fast. So some of them figured out what I was doing just due to that. Uh, yeah, say hello. Yes, this was a slightly, do I say more advanced? Less advanced. It feels we're gonna go with more advanced, more techy. But yes, that was like, yes, exactly. But in my case, it was only targeting people on my friends list who were highly predictable, and it motivated them to not just log in and start with the "Hi, how you doing" type opener, because I would have an auto reply for that. Let's see, Apollo. Your GitHub is really impressive. Thank you. Are you employed to write C Sharp? Yes. I am a C Sharp developer by day. Student trying to break into .NET heavily after I graduate, so I'm trying to master C Sharp with ASP.NET and Blazor, with Blazor taking slightly more interest. Any suggestion for landing a job for C Sharp? Oh, buckle up. Yes. Yes, I do. I have standby incoming information. Um, so a few things to be aware of. First of all, depending on where you look, the stats for C sharp jobs vary. Yeah. Go ahead and grab a Pikachu. There's going to be some links coming. The there's a lot of debate from people where they'll say, "Oh, you have to know language X or framework Y in order to get a job," and blah blah blah. That's a bunch of bull. However, I will point out a couple of things. I am biased. I live in Washington State, United States. There is like in the or not Washington State, in the United States, when we look at the demographics of programming languages, the closer you get to like Seattle, Redmond in Washington State, where Microsoft is headquartered, shockingly, the more C#.NET jobs there are. Right, the Microsoft pull is strong. So there is, whereas if you head down to like Silicon Valley in California, you start to see a little bit more of the newer hipper languages. You get a lot of Java and that kind of stuff, and so the landscape of what jobs and technologies go together varies based on location. So just keep that in mind. So some areas people will go, oh yeah, you if you know C sharp, you're good here, or oh no, don't learn C sharp. No one does C sharp around here. That can be true depending on where you're located. Like there is these weird geographical regions um, of where certain things tend to be more popular. If you're a student and willing to relocate, the the world is your oyster. Okay, so a couple things. First, shameless self promotion. If you are looking for a resource for learning C sharp language, this is the Essential C sharp book series. Um, Spoiler alert! Hey, look, there's my name. I am the technical editor for this, and if you want a print copy, you can go and buy one on Amazon. But the contents of this website are generated from the exact same contents that were used to print this book. So, and the website gets updates, whereas it's really hard for us to put out a patch release to a printed book. So, do with that what you will. I actually have this box. Oh, cool. That's even better. Yeah. So, but again, this is focused only on the language, not on framework. So ASP.NET, Blazor, like there's a blurry line between what's language and what's framework at certain times, but we try to keep it focused on language so that it's more applicable to people. Okay. Next up, go find the. So I work for a company called Intelitech. So us. Um, and so we are a professional services company, which is a fancy way of saying consulting firm. And we do hiring a little different than a lot of people. So depending on where you are located, you will find a lot of very common tips around getting software engineering jobs. There's plenty of videos where people will show you how to go through and prep for common programming interview questions. Um, those aren't bad, but I would say what's better to do first is when you're applying for a job, look into the company that you're applying for and see what you can find out about the company and how they do their hiring or similar. That can go a long way, because you can spend all this time prepping for like them to ask you how to sort a list, and then they'll never ask you that question in an interview, and you've just wasted all that time. So the more you can kind of prep going into it, it'll be very unlikely that companies will straight up tell you, oh, by the way, we asked the following questions in interviews. That's probably not going to happen. They usually don't do that because they want, like, the whole point of an interview is to gauge what a candidate knows. And so you don't want to poison the waters too much. Do they ask that these days? Not so. What I have seen companies do slightly more often is they will ask um, for either samples of your code, or they will do like take home programming things. And so we at Intelitech, we prefer if somebody turns in a resume, we love it when their resume contains like a GitHub profile or repos or any sample of your work. Expect that the interviewer wants to know what you know and what you can do. So any samples you can provide. That doesn't care if it's a hobby project, something that you did in school, something that you did as part of an internship. Obviously, if it's closed source, not supposed to share, don't post private stuff online. Obviously, don't do that. That's bad. That will not get you a job. That will make people not want to hire you. But anything that you have that you're able to show is awesome, right? Show it off. People always get weirded out going, oh, well, this was just a hobby project, yada, yada, yada. Show it, right? Even somebody who did something, as long as you can talk about it, right? And it's actually okay if your code isn't perfect, right? If you can look at it and have a conversation and go, yeah, hey, this was a hobby project. No, I didn't bother to write a lot of unit tests because I was just trying to get something to work, right? That's fine. Like, I'm very okay if a candidate says something like that because it shows that they are able to look at their code and evaluate it. I think that's one of the hardest skills to teach people is read the code and then evaluate, two different options. Which one is better? Like when I teach at the university, that was one of my favorite things to ask students is, here's two methods that do the same thing. Which one's better and why? Right? That's a hard skill to teach because if you've got two methods that do the same thing, which one's better? That's now gone from objective to subjective. And sometimes you can look at goes, well, yeah, that one has a bug or that one's horribly difficult to read or similar. Like, but sometimes that's not an easy thing to do. So being able to have some code and talk through it will go a long way. So if you have anything like that on that you can put onto your resume, do that. Opinions on code comments. My current opinion on code comments is comment anything. Comment the why. Don't necessarily comment the what, because if and I'm going to put a small asterisk next to that. Sometimes commenting what code is doing is important if the method is somewhat complicated, right? If you had to implement some weirdo algorithm that isn't immediate, like if I look at the code and it takes me more than 2 seconds to understand what it's doing, by all means, put a comment on it. Explain the what it's doing is fine. Most of the time, though, the what it's doing is pretty obvious. For example, I'm not going to put a comment and say, this is a command that increases the value, because that should be bloody obvious from the name. Yeah, the what is hopefully self-describing. Not always. Most of the time it should be. But the why is something that's like the what is usually captured in code. That's easy. The why is never captured in code. And so that's what usually is where a comment is very useful of, we are doing this because that information doesn't exist there. And so yeah, comments can lie. And that is the thing, is the biggest problem is when you add a comment, keeping it in sync with the code that it's commenting is a nightmare, right? We talk about dry, like do not repeat yourself, and then we repeat ourselves in the code and then in the comment right next to it. It's like, right? But dry is a guideline, not a hard and fast rule, right? Sometimes it is better to duplicate. Kind of going back and forth. Let's see. Projects are definitely on my list. Really want to make desktop apps with Avalonia. Oh, you're speaking to my heart. I love it. But the web seems to be easier to showcase, especially to employers, but wanting to make a documentation platform like Hugo, Gatsby, etc. that I think might be good enough, but I don't know if I should do typical APIs like weather app, etc. too. Yeah, I don't know if what you build matters as much as being able to have it and show. You are correct. Having a web-based thing is certainly nice because it shows it's easier to like link from an online profile or similar and show up. It also shows that you can deploy something. Um, but even then, if somebody comes to me, like I interviewed somebody who built like a Unity plugin, right? That's not something that's easy to demo because you have to have Unity set up. You then have to get the plugin put into it, right? And so it wasn't something that was easy to demo, and it wasn't necessarily about running the app, but we were able to open up the repository and kind of talk through the areas of the code. And at least when we interview off, that's really what I'm looking to do with somebody is I want to know how much they understand the code. And ideally, if you built the project, you should be the foremost expert on it. So you should be able to explain to me and kind of walk through and say, okay, here's some code, here's what it's doing. And then usually I like to start poking at it a little bit and start asking questions. Okay, why this? Why did you make that decision? Right. And kind of trying to tease out how much the person understands about the code that they wrote. Because some people, they can get something working simply because they copied and pasted off a Stack Overflow. So I like to ask those questions because it really teases out, did you like, I don't mind if somebody copies their entire program from Stack Overflow, by the way, as long as you can explain to me what the code does. Totally fine with the copy and paste, right? As long as you understand it, great, right? If you don't understand it, that's probably when you shouldn't be copying and pasting. Okay, what other resource as well. So this is one, and I will preface this. This is somewhat similar to, or somewhat specific to Intellitech. Uh, oh, Izzy, sorry, I just saw your question about the UK branch. No, sadly, we don't have a branch outside of Spokane. We have a handful of remote people, but we've teased the idea of starting remote ones and never had enough or people to do so. But this one here is a bunch of application tips and tricks, right? So I think at the time of recording, Grant here on the right was the CTO, and Stephanie, I think her title was office manager or similar. Um, but at least when we do interviews, there's a lot of stuff that we're looking for. There's what do you know? How well do you learn? And then a lot of like attitude, teamwork level stuff, right? Those are kind of the big areas that we try to focus in on. And you'll note that what you know is only one of three, right? And we'll often say that we want a candidate to have at least, ideally, if a candidate can have everything, that'd be perfect. But those people don't exist. Everybody's stronger in some areas than others, and so we're usually looking to say, okay, do you have at least two out of three things? And then we try to say, okay, does that fit into the role that we're looking for? If you're coming in as a student, we are probably caring less about how much you know, because somebody who just graduate, we don't expect you to know a lot. We want to make sure that the student has a firm grasp on foundations. So things like object oriented related stuff, being able to reason through algorithms is oftentimes a big thing there. And even some programming problems are just thinking through problems and being able to solve them. We love it when we can see people who have a firm grasp on source control, specifically Git, because that's like what everything uses. Not a lot of students graduate from universities that teach source control. When we teach, we absolutely force our students to learn it, but some people come from other universities and they're like, what's GitHub? It's like, right, okay, we've got we've got some teaching to do here. So um a firm grasp on that will go a long way, because pretty much, I would say 98-99% of jobs out there are probably going to be making you use source control, and a huge percentage of that is going to be Git. So it's the best one to learn because it has a sweepingly large market share of all of the jobs. I think of all of the places I have worked and all the clients I've worked with over the last 10 years, I think only one didn't use Git. There's probably like 30 or 40 different companies in that list. So there is a lot, there's a lot out there. And if you find a job offer from somebody who isn't using source control, turn and run. Turn and run. You just don't know. Like don't don't even. Uh Pikachu, do I need to scrub that, or is that just an accidental type? Um but yeah, so uh drop my phone on my keyboard. Oh, perfect. So it's whatever your phone decided to type. Excellent. But yes, so this one here contains a lot of good information about putting together an application, kind of tips and tricks going into that. The other thing that often goes a long way, especially for students coming in, is one, make sure you follow up. Like students or people that apply for jobs and then just disappear are really high. Following up goes a long way. There was let me see if I can find it real quick. There was a video I did with Get Kraken, and I Stephanie actually joined me for that as well. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And it was all a big portion of it was getting people started. Let's see, videos. What is it? Application. The problem is searching application is probably going to get me in the wrong place. Let's see. What if I search here? Yeah, this one here. So this video here was a great one, and this one was targeted at an internship, but the a lot of the stuff shared in here about getting an internship applies to landing an entry level job as well. Because an internship in a lot of cases is an extended interview for a full-time offer. A lot of companies bring in interns, and usually by the time the internship runs out, the company is really clear about whether this is somebody that they would hire or not. Now, they may not be able to hire them, right? Like we bring in, I think Inteltech is something like 6 or 8 um interns this year, and we like hopefully at the end of the year, at least the ones that are graduating, um, if they've done well, there's potentially a job offer on the line. Now, a lot of things go into that. Do we actually have a project we can put them on, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes if you don't get hired after your internship, it's not necessarily that you did a poor job or anything. It's just that the company's not in a place to hire you. So it goes about both ways. But an internship in a lot of cases is an extended interview. Is a LinkedIn important? Uh, I would say I would say an online presence is important. A LinkedIn is definitely a good way to go. I wouldn't say required, but it definitely a good thing to do. So, you want a public online presence, but like I've seen people come in like not having anything is bad, right? You should have something, whether that be a LinkedIn, whether that should be an online resume and like a GitHub page or similar. Like you need to have some sort of online presence. It's very hard to interview candidates that come to us without much to show. Like if they come and they don't have they don't have a GitHub, they don't have a LinkedIn, they don't have any code samples, it gets really hard to kind of have that conversation because you're kind of interviewing blind. Um, let's see. What about messaging recruiters on LinkedIn from companies you're interested in? Asking about what the company uses or what the interview processes are like. Yeah, so that can certainly work. You could actually go even one step further. Uh, Okay, Izzy does point out if so public sector they can be very unhappy if you have certain online profiles. I think it does depend what kind of profile you have though. Because I work with a bunch of Microsoft MVPs who very much have very strong public profiles because that's what they do. Um but it depends on like what is there, right? Like if you're using something like a LinkedIn, use it. Don't use LinkedIn like a social media site. Like use it like an online resume. Those should be kept very different as far as how they get used. Um, yeah. Um, I don't know if it necessarily matters when you start, right? And again, for people who are hiring entry level people like fresh out of school, there's not an expectation that you know everything. There, like the expectation is very clear. You just graduated, so the question is are you like so if somebody's calling you in for an interview after looking at your resume, they know that you're a fresh graduate. They know that you don't have a lot of hands-on experience. Maybe some like senior projects, maybe some internships. If you've done any like hobby projects, definitely put that on there. Like hobby projects go a long way because it shows not only what you can do, but it also shows a willingness to learn and invest time in a craft outside of what you were required to do for school. So, even if you don't think your hobby project is that good or interesting, like it shows some stuff. Yeah, and GitHub open source PRs are good as well. The only thing that's hard is finding a way to like list them and show them, right? Like if you have a GitHub profile and you specifically call out in your resume, "Hey, I contribute to this other like I contribute to this other open source project." I may go and look that up, but understand that when people are looking at your resume, they aren't likely to dive more than maybe one or two levels deep on anything you give them. Like some people might go deeper, but a lot of times, like if you've got a link to your GitHub profile, I might hit your profile and I might go one level deeper and that's probably as far as I go, right? Like Nikolai, great timing. I got a bunch of your PRs merged and then I got sidetracked because somebody started asking questions about getting jobs, which if you've got advice for we'll call them fresh graduates out of university getting their first job, feel free to drop it in. Nikolai is one of the other maintainers on the material design project, so one could call him an expert. Um, yeah, sorry, I forgot where. Sorry, I got to scroll back up. Yeah, so the other thing that does sometimes work, and this will vary from company to company. One, a referral goes a long way, like massively long way. There's a running joke, at least around here, that it's not what you know, it's who you know. Um, because if you have a referral on your resume, you are significantly more likely to get an interview. You are significantly more likely to get a call back. The A referral from somebody you don't really know will probably help a little bit. A referral from somebody who actually knows you goes a lot further, right? So the more rapport you build with somebody, the more likely their referral is going to be. Because occasionally I get people reaching out to me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, I'm interested in a job at Intelitech. Will you refer me?" I'm like, "I'm happy to, but like in my referral, I straight up tell them, "Hey, by the way, like I've just exchanged some messages with this person on LinkedIn. I don't actually know them that much, but here's what I see from going through their profiles and whatnot, and like I'll give them my assessment." But it's like that's as much as I can recommend somebody who I don't like actually know. If it's somebody who's been like working on an open source project with me and I've seen their code, it's like, oh yeah, I can give a much stronger referral. I now know something about them. So if you are able to get a referral, that is good. Anyone you message though to try to either get a referral or recruiters to find information about, make sure that you follow up, and even just ending with a thank you goes like very far. The number of times I've seen people like shoot messages, they get a reply and then they just disappear into the ether and you never hear from them again is high. It happens a lot. So people who follow up and who are diligent about it, and especially if you message somebody and they're like, hey, we don't have anything now, but check back in 3 months, like calendar reminder on your calendar, Outlook, Gmail, whatever, right? And in 3 months, you follow up with them. Like, the fact that you were diligent and followed up will make a huge difference. So many people do not do that. Yeah, honestly, Pikachu, that there's somebody at our company who I think a big reason why they got hired was because of how well they stayed in touch and how well they followed through with communication. Like, it made a huge difference. They weren't local from the area, but they were planning on moving up. They kind of blindly reached out to myself and a couple other people on LinkedIn who work there. They asked some questions. They were like, hey, coming up for a visit. We'll be in the area in a few weeks. Would it be possible to stop by just to see the office? And that, like, they were very diligent. They didn't have a lot of skill in C# at the time. And so we're like, yeah, it'd be great if you could learn some more C#. They actually took our university class virtually and did amazing. Like, I think it was 2 weeks in, I was like, hire them now. Like, they are going to be amazing, and hired them, and it's been wonderful, right? So good communication and follow-up goes a long way. And who you contact also matters quite a bit. Like, it's good to get a hold of like developers, and again, I get people reaching out to me on LinkedIn all the time, which I'm happy to chat with people and answer questions. But the people that you most want to talk to are the people who are going to be sitting in the rooms for your interviews. And it's not always obvious who that is going to be, right? You're probably going to have an interview with someone in HR, but they're not usually the person who's going to make the decision about hiring you or not. They're going to be the person who rejects you if you set off too many bells in their alarm clock. But HR isn't usually the one who makes the yes decision. They may make a no decision, but they don't make a yes decision. But then somebody like whoever, the office managers, team leads, engineering managers, those tend to be the people who are going to be across the table from you in an interview, and they're going to be the ones who are actually going to make the yes or no decision. So their vote counts a lot, right? I think what else? Yes. But both of these videos come with lots of good tips in them as well. I think that's all. Yes. If you got more specific questions, feel free to ping me on them, because I've got a, like, I'm happy to answer more, but I think that's all I've got, at least off the top of my head. When is the next virtual class? So where we're at now, we work in quarters. So spring quarter has just wrapped up, and next one is going to be fall. It's like, hang on, I can look. EW uh academic calendar. This. When does the quarter start in the fall? Let's see, June. Let's see. First day of instruction. September 25th appears to be fall quarter's first day of instruction. So, September 25th. Let's see. Nikolai's got some great stuff. I believe the process of landing a job varies from country and culture to country and culture. Yes. Having only ever worked professionally in tech in Denmark, that's all I can speak to. Is that diligent personality, team spirit, curiosity for learning plays a big role, even bigger than your experience. If you have basic knowledge or even less, Uh, that is what is required. But your personality and curiosity are a perfect match. That is gold. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and Andrew seconds that as well, especially in learning. Uh and Izzy, not expecting summer quarter. No, we take summers off. So Eastern Washington University is one of the universities that has a campus here in Spokane. There's four. Yeah, I think there's four kind of major universities here. This is just the one that suckered us into teaching. Um, the the former CEO of Intelitech was on the kind of the professional advisory board for local businesses for them, and we complained about the quality of graduates one year, and their solution was, "Do you want to just come teach? Um, your coworker is in Spokane." Oh, really? Uh-oh. Do I know them? But yeah, so we go and teach. We teach a C# class. We teach a they call it a UI class, but it's really a web-based class. I think it's typically ASP.NET Core backend, Vue with Vite front end. The last several quarters, they've basically spent the whole quarter building out the Wordle, if you're familiar with that. I think it's New York Times now app. They build a Wordle clone during the quarter so that you end all the way through. And then we also teach a DevOps class, which targets I think it's AZ 102. I think that's no, AZ 102 is AI engineer. One of the entry level Microsoft certs. We teach our DevOps class is kind of teaching curriculum with the intent that people should be very close to being able to go in and take and pass that test at the end. Let's see. Do they offer classes a la carte, or would I have to be a full-time student there? Um, Pikachu, if you're interested, shoot me a message offline. Um, because the answer is kind of, but instructors have a lot of freedom in what they offer and what they do. So yeah, if you're interested, shoot me a message offline. Yeah, and just for learning, no credit. And that's the thing is if you don't need official credit, it doesn't matter because we've occasionally done this with like some of our interns as well. Is we've told them part of their internship is to go through the class. Um, and so they'll either take the class as a student or we'll make them take the class as a teacher's assistant, a TA, and help do grading or similar. And as long as the university doesn't have to like fill out an official transcript and do all the paperwork and whatnot, they don't care that much. Like, as far as they're concerned, they're like, if the instructor wants to take on more work of having, extra assignments to look at and grade, we don't care. Like, it's not like we're paying the instructor extra. So, and for reference, we make almost nothing. Like, adjunct professor pay is barely anything. And usually we're splitting that between like two or three instructors. And so you take almost nothing and then you divide it by three. And that's how much we make. So basically nothing. Okay. I was doing something before I was distracted. Um let's see. Having missed the first couple hours of the stream, I suspect I first PRs. Yeah, 5.1 release, and I think to answer your question, I think we're very, very close. Um, I have punted several items to a 5.2. Doo-doo-doo. Next semester is independent studies, so I'm arranging stuff to fill the gap. Yeah, Pikachu, shoot me a message and let's chat and see what those dates are and how much of an overlap there is. Nikolai, so on the stuff that is remaining, so I was gonna try to get the numeric up down control cleaned up since when I did it the first time, I didn't have enough Mountain Dew and clearly messed it up a bunch. Nothing divided by 3 minus expenses. Yeah. Um, the I was some of the two evaluation ones I haven't really looked at aside from this one. This one I couldn't find anything, but I have a memory of fixing something around dialogue host in the 5.1 release already. But when I dug through the PRs, I couldn't find it. So I was going to check Git history and see if I can find it. But I think there was already a fix around this. Like we flip flopped back and forth. Oh, Alex Hero Dev, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. For anybody interested or joining in, there are two normal hours raid. Yeah. The stream started with us working on the next release for the material design and XAML stuff. And then we detoured a little bit on helping some people who are soon to be graduates and entering the workforce and asking questions about interviews and landing first jobs and that kind of stuff. Oh, Izzy, you might be right. It could have been around the call. See, that's the problem. Is when I haven't had enough Mountain Dew, my memory is a little low. There was something about it. Should take if the input is. I can't remember the details. Yeah, and there's code in that dialog host to check the control, and there's the dispatcher callback, and the timing of it's always been a pain in the neck. So, but yes, welcome all the first time people. This is wonderful. Wonderful to have a raid. We try to be very friendly here, and I enjoy rabbit trails with questions. So, especially for new people coming in and learning, like, absolutely. So, I definitely don't mind, deviating down rabbit trails or similar. And everyone here is friendly. So yeah, so this one I wanted to look at more before I potentially punted it. I don't think it's a big issue to fix for 5.1, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't already done before I just blindly punted it. Accessibility issue, I haven't even touched yet. Just finished the third coffee, walking in the door of the forge. Excellent. See, that sounds like you're finally prepped, Izzy. You finally woken up in the morning. The tree view one is a simple addition. I was tempted to just go through and make it go away. I looked at the scroll viewer ignore padding one, and I punted that PR to the next release. Only on the reason that this old behavior matches default WPF controls. Like, and so as much as I want to like the solution, it concerns me that we would be adding something that would change the behavior of scroll viewer for somebody bringing a regular WPF application forward. So I got twitchy on it. I'm like, eh. So there was some decent suggestions on where to go of maybe splitting this out. Yeah. Yeah, and I think not reusing the same padding property probably is better, right? Like I get the desire. Normally this gets solved by just put a margin on your content, but that doesn't work generically. So it's like I I get it. If you want it generic, you kind of have to do something here, but eh. So yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where it's at. This one here, I don't know. Why did I not merge this? I'm trying to remember. Oh right, we got I remember. Dang, now I remember this one. This is the one on the dialogue host because we had that discussion on it. Okay, I remember this now. And we ran into the problem of trying to figure out how to actually write the test, and we couldn't query the items. Yeah, I added up at the top of the description. Yeah. Uh, that a card style but several properties will be ignored because they're passed through hard coded. Oh, yes. Yeah. It feels like there's no winning on this one. Like, no matter what we do, one of the two cases is going to be wrong. which makes me wonder if the approach is missing something. Because we either have to forward everything down. Yeah, punt it. Okay. Given that you're the author of it, I'm not going to argue with you. 5.2 it is. We need to find a cleaner approach. Yeah, there it feels something. Yeah, I don't know the right solution. I don't know the right solution, which is really it's kind of frustrating that the card being an internal implementation detail requires so much configuration. I'm like when I took over this library at the beginning, one of the things the author told me was that dialog host was one of his most problematic controls because it got used wrong in so many ways and there was so many issues around it. He's like, it might need a complete rework. And I've actually contemplated that over the years of if I were to rebuild dialogues from scratch, what would I do? Right? Because Ma Apps solves it in a different way where they basically make you derive from their window class so that they can do the wrapper over it, which I don't fully like. Like it does solve some of the problems in a very clean way because then your users don't think about it. It just goes away and works. Wonderful. But the dialogue host as we have it gives us, you can overlap it on, smaller sections and similar. It's like that's kind of nice. But then people also ask for, hey, can you implement messagebox.show for me? It's like, not really, but we could try. Like, there's not a good way for us to just inject and go. So, yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about halfway points and custom window chromes, and well, maybe we should roll our own window class or similar, just so that there's an easier way to do it. Like, that would be kind of nice, maybe. So, yeah. So I was going to get the um your comments on the numeric stuff up on the up down control at least in, and then work backwards from there. Because I think that's basically where we're going. Okay, and then let's see here. So yeah, does that mean I'm trying to think now of what I've done, why I have the parameters here. This why am something feels very, very wrong. You left a good comment about this. Where was it? It was somewhere in here. There was a very good comment in regards to doing the controls. Why does conversation not show me? Oh, there it is. Tony, thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. Please revert this before merging. Yep. Before I do something stupid like forget about that, let's just not be an idiot. We'll just not do that. Okay. Hold on. I already did fix this, didn't I? The old value is true. Oh yeah, there we are. There we are. Okay. Old value is true. I can read somewhat. Let's see. Yeah. They should really probably be part of the public API. Don't have public setters. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was looking for. I knew you had referenced a nice one. Let's see, where is slider? Why is I don't know why my code search window has decided that it wants to be on my other monitor. very, very inconvenient. Uh, why are you just being dumb? Why am I being dumb? Really a 50-50. Uh, where does this go? Later. Oh, that's why. I was expecting it to be in my code. I see. This is where. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't even think we necessarily do the setup here quite. Like this might even be better, but I don't know if I want to go down the whole gesture approach versus just the code behind handler, because they had to wire up their own input gesture and all of that stuff, which is fine, but yes. Um, what I'm missing though is, where does the parameter go on a routed command? Also, I'm very happy to see this. I think it's the comment in the numeric down file. Let's see. Apollo, kind of random. How often do you stream? No, great question, Apollo. So I am in Pacific time, so West Coast United States. So times are going to be reported in that. I do not report my times in UTC. So I stream Wednesday evenings starting at 9 p.m. And usually go in the 2 to 3 ish hour range. I I used to tell people I go for 2 hours, and I don't remember the last time I cut my stream off at 2 hours. It's been a very long time. So I have a bad habit of going much later than that. But yeah, so just due to family, kids, all of that, 9 p.m. is the earliest I can reasonably get on, and so it is a horrible time slot for the vast majority of my target audience, which is English speaking .NET developers. And unfortunately, when you start your stream at 9 p.m. West Coast United States, most people tend to be asleep or up late, crazy like me. So it's funny. I look at the analytics, and oftentimes somewhere like I pick up morning in Europe for Thursday morning for a lot of people as things come across. It's just after lunch in Japan. Yeah. So Andrew has a reasonable time slot for some people, or Pikachu. But yeah, for a lot of it, like I'm targeting people that are across an ocean from me rather than anybody nearby, which is kind of funny. But I do the links at the bottom down below. I do post the recordings up on YouTube, which I tend to get a lot more US views on YouTube rather than Twitch, because then people can watch it in an hour that's convenient. Yeah, see, or Acid Rain, who just is a complete night owl, as far as I can tell. Um, oh, yeah, 2:30, but my sleep schedule gets unpredictable around midterms. Yeah, yeah. I completely understand that. Let's see. The command should be used to actually change the value, not be executed when the value is changed. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So inside of here, what we're looking for then is a constructor that actually wires up to the command bindings. Add. Right. New command binding. Increase command. Blah blah blah. I think my point is you probably should not have the command at all. I would handle the click event and the code bind, and then possibly have a routed event notifying the value change. Oh, interesting. Because I was briefly considering them being similar to the open close dialog commands ones, but now you say that, now I'm wondering if you're right. Because the only thing I'm thinking about though is on the like from my usages, Would I ever need something? No, you make a good point. From an MVVM perspective, in my view model, the only thing I ever really care about is binding to the value. The fact that there's buttons that make the value go up and down is kind of circumstantial. The only thing that I was thinking of is I was imagining the somebody wanting to change the parameter that goes in, but at that point, I don't think that's the right. Okay, yeah, okay. You just convinced me. I think I just needed to hear myself say it out loud to realize I was an idiot. Okay, so that makes this whole thing significantly easier because then I just do this, and then the problem goes away. Yeah. That does because we're already handling the because we're already handling the button clicks, right? So those things are going to work, right? So that doesn't need to exist. These don't need to exist. But it's just got a whole lot simpler. Okay, this must be the right solution. It feels easier. Like that's oftentimes when your code starts to feel easy to use, that's when you know you've started to hit a good spot. Sorry, that's right. I just saw your. How else can you build your messenger app? I will say I have built many a thing late at night, and the real test is tomorrow morning. If you look at the code and you're still okay with it, it was a good night. Because I will say there are a number of times where I've looked at stuff the next day and gone, "What the heck was I thinking?" Last night, Kevin was clearly out of it. Goes there, that goes there, that goes there. Okay, so if that's the case, yeah, definitely days where I looked at the code and go, what was I even trying to do here? Yeah, yeah. That is very much how it goes. Okay. Now we run tests and make sure that I haven't broken anything. My test window is over on the other monitor. I would go move it, but these are UI tests that are going to start dragging the mouse around, so they're going to stay over there for the moment. And the flashy windows, that's the UI test. Good news though, green circle. We have passing tests, all three of them. And by three of them, it only executed one of them because I clearly clicked inside of it. Let's try this again, this time with all three. Get that. Whee! Now let's go look at the test. I'm trying to remember exactly what I did in these tests. Let's see, numeric increase and decrease value. Got it. So it just wires that up, goes back and forth. Okay. Let's see here. So, do not know why I have that. Okay, so removed commands. See here, what else we got? This was just moving the test file into the appropriate place. Reverted. Attach. Debugger change in base UI test class. Put my head on the other side. That way I'm not covering up what I am doing in here. Okay. Get crack and commit. Get crack and push. And full send. See here. Numeric up downs. Let's see. Ideally, I think the minimum maximums are missing some coercion check callbacks to ensure a valid range. Oh, that's a good point. That is a very good point. So, yeah, because right now they have nothing. So that would be. So I guess then the question is what If the maximum changes after to a value lower than the current value, the value should move down to be equal to the maximum. I think these warrant some tests. I believe slider has minimum as the main driver. Yeah, that would make sense. And I think I close it. No. See, where is there? One of these things here shows me the. Ooh, let's see. Are you not in alphabetical order? Oh, because you are on. Let's see. Coerce value. Oh. Yeah, let's see what it does here. Let's see. On maximum change, it coerces the start and end property. So I'm going to go with the on minimum change coerces the start. Got it. So it's basically just shelling out to whatever the coerce method is on start and end. Let's see. So coerce start, and then it just does something like that. And I assume coerce end is not too unlike that. Yeah, it's same exact thing. So I think you're right. I think we need something like coerce value, and then min max need to control it. So I think there's actually well, hold on. I'm gonna write a test first, and then we'll go through and change it. Uh, JC, quick callback question to a couple months ago. How can I bind is mouse over property of the internal text field assist to call commit edit on the data grid? Ooh. So let's see. Is mouse over property? Let's see. Because that is the field assist. Let's see. Where is the I? Wait, is there a mouse? Um. Oh, I'm at the wrong. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Because we hid those ones in here. Yeah, internal namespace. Got it. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Find the is mouse over property to call commit edit on my data grid. Let's see. Izzy, have a good day. Don't enjoy work too much. Um, that is a good question. Easiest way to go about doing that. Because it's set up as you have the attached property, but in order to call commit edit, you have to be inside the code behind. Because I assume you're inside the code behind of whatever element contains your data grid. So you're able, because the commit edit I think lives on data grid itself, or does it live on data grid cell? Either way, you're living there. So when this guy changes, you're going to end up wanting to go through and do that. Let's go here because oh, look at everything. Because you're wanting to track that guy. Oh, but there might be an alternate. So let me just hunt his usages out here. because this guy is going to be bound to the whole point of him is so that we have a way of tracking this. He is a setter. The only assignment. That's a read, 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 read. Right. Time picker and date picker are the only two that actually apply it, and they're just setting. So I guess I'm curious why you want this attached property, JC. This may not be what you. This may not be doing what you need. This is because the cancel button doesn't trigger keyboard got focus. Oh. Hang on. I can type. Can't do it. People are looking. So in of the text box. So you actually, but do you have a one of the picker controls inside of your cell? What am I saying? You sent me a link. Um, go here. Inside of here, be a data grid. There's your stack panel. Oh, because this is in the column header. That's right. It wasn't actually down in the cell. In your header, you've actually text box to build out like the filtering. Right. So this one is probably not going to land because I like stack panels aren't going to have. They're not going to get keyboard focus because they aren't focusable. So I don't expect this to pick it up. Because I think what you're actually looking for here is all SP is keyboard focus within. This branch is a demo of the problem. Oh, really? Does it run? I just clone and go. Filter. Code. Open with Kraken. Also, if you haven't, let's see, clone from you. Oh, awesome. Hang on. AI, which I don't know if people are interested. Are. Okay. Temp sounds like a great directory to open. Okay. And this is okay, and I go open. I have 3 visuals. I have 3 Visual Studios open. That's exciting. Okay, so let's take a quick gander, JC. So let's see here. I need to find my way back in, which I am going to be inside of BPF Sims F. Already forgot. There. Going. And then I assume this is my Invoke, enter for sim. I think I'm in the right place. Yeah, so I'm here. So what's the failure case here? Because I'm assuming if I do 5, right? I filter that, and then escape, close. What's the failure case that we're looking to grab where the cancel button doesn't trigger? Curious what might oh, is it here then? Because if I go here and then delete the 5 and trying to decide, trying to figure out what the case is of wanting to test that. That works. Cancel doesn't clear filter. Oh, you're wanting the. That's exciting. We launched that. So you're wanting escape. I guess I'm trying to figure out when you say cancel, what action are you taking to try to trigger cancel? Because cell edit wouldn't occur inside of a header. I guess that's what I'm missing. Typically, your cell edits are only going to be down here because these are the ones that move between edit. So are you expecting canceling a cell edit down here to change the filter? Is that the intent? After a cell edit, I just click the filter. Click the. If I go down here and go ads, after a cell edit, I just click the. That's exciting. That's so after an edit, you once the so if I type this and then at the end of an edit, you want the filter to go away. That because right now when I move out and it commits, the row drops because it doesn't match the filter anymore. So is the idea after you make an edit to a cell, um, you want the filter to just clear out on the back side of it? There's no save on the demo. Ah, also my. You have to select a sim to edit. Now I want to. See you, Nikolai. Let's see. Done the work and want to clear the filter. On this guy's code box. JC, I'm feeling a little dense. It's probably because it's late for me. If you click on the filter before, if I do that and click on the filter before the cancel, sorry, there's a slight delay on my stream, so I'm trying to go slow and focus. Because I go clear now. Nice. When you say clear, are you talking about this? Click the filter clear button. This one. And then this one bites here because it's trying to do a refresh. Like we can end up fixing this guy here. Because this is if filter view editing property on editing item. Oh, why is it? Oh, it's back to that. Yeah. So this guy is a what? Guy here where have access. One of those areas where it gets a little obnoxious because this is a leaky abstraction. Production exception doesn't trigger. Oh, interesting. That's exciting. I go here and then I go here. Oh, interesting. I wonder if the exception is occurring, JC, but you just can't see it. Because you'll note here, if I delete this and then I click, then I just ignore the exception and keep going. I'm now, is this the behavior that you're seeing? So let's launch this without debugging. I control F5 this guy. So I'm willing to bet it's the same issue. It's just with the debugger attached, you see it. Without it, you don't. All right, so if I go here, or if I go here, right, and then I come in here and I delete this, right? If I click this, it looks like it's not moving off, but I think what's actually happening is you're getting the exception and WPF is just ignoring it. And or it could be this guy is hiding it. Possible it's either. Okay. We change this up. Right? Do this. Do this. Right? So stop there. Do that. Close that. If I come down here, but now I have access. Is editing item. Surprise! I hate to do a. We could do a deferred callback do that instead with like a dispatcher. But it seems wondering. I'll look at what's on this guy before I get too carried away. Is there a Because really what you want to do is down here. Let's see. Notes, fill slash updated, tag status, phone. I think it was this. So if this, right, we want to do filter view. Let's All right, edit item. What I want to do is I want to cancel the. Let's see. Can I clear it? Will let me do it from the backside. Commit edit. Probably where we want to go, and then try this. I think this might be easier to solve with the going through the view directly. Question is, did I do the right one? Okay. Put a filter of 5 up here. I'm going to go here, get rid of the 5. I'm going to click on the clear. Exception in. So I think that is probably a better path rather than trying to futz with it in the code behind. Handle it in your view model with your view. It does mean you have to do something slightly annoying like this. And I intentionally did a hard cast here rather than like an as because I didn't want to null check it on the end. Like if you ever change because if you ever change the default view type, which is which would happen if you change this collection, but what are the odds you ever change away from observable collection? Like, eh. So hardcast this guy down to a list collection view to give you access to the extra members, and then I'd probably wrap a bunch of this stuff up similar to this. I don't think you have is new item. No, you don't. I was gonna say you'll get bit. You'll also have to do something similar to this if you have a new item. And again, the question is, should you commit the edits or cancel the edits? Like I think commit makes more sense based upon what you've set up elsewhere. But is adding new is the other one where you might end up having to do it. So yeah, so something akin to that. Yeah. And then if you'd like, let's see. Do this. Use list view collection. If you want the code, copy cloud patch link. Add as a specific view. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So if you don't have that enabled on your data grid, you don't need to worry about the add case. But there's the code. And stop debugging. And there you're off to the races. And that is also a Get Kraken Cloud patch. So for anybody who wants to see it, like it, so this is actually kind of a cool thing. So on the cloud patches, so one, if you have Get Kraken installed, you can use one of the happy buttons. But if you don't, you can just go getkraken.dev. And I already have a Get Kraken account. If you don't have one, it'll prompt you to make a free account and all of that jazz. But then you get all of this. It's like I can share my commit and off to the races. So easy mode with cloud patches. So you can share them out. I will say, do be mildly cautious of leveraging this. And like if you're working in a private repo and you make a public cloud patch link, right? Maybe don't do that Because in order for this to be able to show you, because the patch file itself doesn't contain the entire file's contents, it only contains the change around where you've made the deltas. So in order to do this, GitKraken has to be able to reach out to the repository, be able to pull in the whole file to be able to show you this kind of context. So in my case, it works great because this is a public repo. Great, easy to read the file out of. Anyone can read the public file. If it's private, then we have to talk about setting up integrations and that kind of thing. Otherwise, it can't reach across and show that information. But the integrations inside of GitKraken Dev then end up syncing across between all of your tools. So, and there's even like the cool new Launchpad feature in GitKraken exists in gitkraken.dev too. So you can do all of that from a browser. So if you're on a machine without GitKraken, you can get it. Okay. I was writing a test. I have applied the patch to my repo. Wasn't that easy? Wasn't that easy, JC? You know what? I should clip this. I'm gonna. I need to make a note. I'm gonna make a note. The GitKraken people always love seeing success stories, so we're gonna call this a success story. I'll send that over. They love those type of success stories because it's nice when you have an actual thing to be able to show off and say, hey, look, this is how it worked. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this back out. GitKraken rocks. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It is by far my Git tool of choice. Like, it's not perfect. There are rough edges, and like some of the new repo management and the Launchpad stuff, like it's brand new. Like there's some stuff to be worked out, but the direction that they're going and how quickly they fix stuff, like it's hard to imagine another tool keeping up. Like I feel like Visual Studio has just now got around to having halfway decent Git integration built in, but I can't see myself changing. I think it's too little, too late. Okay, so I wanted to write a test around here that tests the max and min stuff to make sure that the coerce stuff works properly. Is I think what we're going for. Let's see. Max and min assignments. Coerce value to be in range. Okay, so we're gonna do this. Kill the minimum there, so that's not set. We don't need the plus button. We don't need the minus button. Okay, we don't need any of that. We don't need any of this. Okay, so we have the numeric up down. I don't think we need the text field because we want to just act on the values itself. Okay, so step one. So we want to do numeric up down minimum. And we want to set the minimum to be, let's do 3. Right, so we will do wait, blah, blah, blah. Glad to see more C# devs like yourself on Twitch. The language doesn't get nearly enough love here as it should. I agree. I absolutely agree. Dear heavens. Stupid Copilot showing off. Okay, Copilot, write the rest of the test for me. Uh-oh. 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 Now, obviously, this should be an error. Because if you set your maximum below your minimum, that should not work. Actually, what does slider do if you do that? What does slider do? If I change my maximum, it coerces the start first. And it's only doing the selection start. Really? You allow... Really? Oh, hang on. What does this method do? Just sizing. Hang on. There's no way. There's no way. You can't not. No. No. There's no way. There's no way that. Okay. No. I don't believe you. I know what I'm reading, but I don't believe you. Fields line up. Sliders. Why did I not see? Oh, because I can't read. Okay, great. Okay, so you're telling me if I make my minimum 51, you're okay with this? There is no way that should work. If I set my minimum greater than my maximum, my world doesn't make sense anymore. Which, might I add, I now have 35. Like, okay. It's perfectly okay with that. No. That is no. I am not. No. I am not okay with this. WPF. I am very much not okay with this. Okay, show me max, show me min. Okay. So what did it do? So let's see. So minimum went to 51. So then it pushed the maximum up to 51 as well. Okay. Now, this is something dumb. What happens if I do them in the opposite order? And this is something that occasionally bites on different, where you get slightly different behavior on different XAML frameworks as well. Looking at you, .NET MAUI. Min 50. Really? Really? I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I get that we probably should make it match the slider, but no, look at that. So this is probably what Nikolai was remembering when he said that he thought minimum led. Because if you have two, somebody has to leave. It's like dancing. You can't have both partners lead. One has to lead, one has to follow. I am not a good dancer, but I think the analogy works. Okay, so given that, man, that's just so weird. So we should do these in the opposite order then. So the behavior that we expect, right, is maximum goes to 1, get value, the value should get pushed down to 1. The minimum goes up to 3, right? The value should go to 3. And then obviously Copilot, the assertion is, come on Copilot, haven't you been watching the stream? Come on, write it. No, you fail. Here's a hint. Assert equal. That's all I'm doing for you. Come on, Copilot, impress me. Impress me. That's not impressing me. Here's your next hint, Copilot. 3. Can you figure it out from that? No? How about now? But now? No, you just fail. Okay, fine. Right? Okay, so for all people who are worried about AI taking over, good news, Copilot still cannot read my mind. Which is probably better for all concerned. Okay, so this is, I think, the behavior we want, right? Value starts at 2, min and max default to int min and int max, respectively. We bring the maximum down to 1. That forces the value down to 1. We then bring the minimum up to 3. That forces the value up to 3 and forces the maximum to go up with it. I think then I want to do one more thing. Oh, Copilot. Oh, Copilot. You're an idiot, but you were doing so good there for a minute. I just. So here's a question. Should this go down to here? Because this isn't quite the same as the XAML. Isn't quite the same as the XAML. Let's change this guy here. X.name. Let's change one thing real quick because I am studio. I am curious. My slider, right? Okay, so I want to test this here with basically our exact same use case. Okay, so we're gonna start at 2, and then in the code, right down here, let's see, let's do it on loaded, just for sanity's sake, to make sure there's nothing weird going on with timing, because that would be bad. Okay. So my slider, we're gonna set the do this in the same order. I'm gonna side there. Okay. So we're going to maximum gets 1, right? And then we're gonna just change. Yeah, that's already 2. Okay, and then we're gonna come down here. We're gonna do set minimum to 3, right? And then we're gonna do maximum to 2. And I want to see the results of that after we've moved it around, right? Because I think the order in the XAML may be messing with this. Okay, maximum is 3. So if you try to move the maximum below the minimum, you get rejected. Okay. So this should remain at 3. Minimum should remain at 3. And or I see the question sitting there. Just 1 second. Let's see. What do you think about spoken languages for better employment champions? There's like learning Spanish, German, etc. I hear that is good if the company needs people to travel for conferences to represent them. Um, I think that depends on the type of role that you're going for. So for someone who is in like a developer relations job, I could certainly see that being a very valuable asset. For somebody who is just trying to get a job as a developer, um, I think it'll depend a little bit on the company. Like I've seen it be an asset at places where companies have less about traveling for conferences and representing them, and more for if the company has multiple offices distributed around the world. It can be very helpful if somebody has an office in Germany and one in Spain, being able to have somebody who speaks Spanish and German to communicate across between people's in different offices. Um, I've seen that be an asset before. For a regular developer role, it's usually what's most important is that you can communicate effectively with your team and with your stakeholders. And so, unless the language is valuable to your team or the stakeholders, I don't know if I would say it's that big of an asset for your average developer. I think that's the only time I've seen it play a factor is when either other members of the team or stakeholders um, were their primary language was in another one that you speak. Yeah. Yeah, I speak three languages, but only language that matters is English. Yeah, and I will say the for better or worse, a large portion of the tech world defaults to English a lot. It's why you get so many bad localization implementations in so much software, is because everything just defaults to English, which isn't great, but it's reflective of who built the technology. English speaking people, which is why that tends to be the default. Let's see. My university requires 2 semesters of a spoken language, so I'm going to try to add Spanish to my resume. But yeah, I imagine it's more useful for certain roles or geographical locations. Yeah, and I think depending on where you're looking to get a job, if you have choices of your language, I would tailor it around to where you are hoping to be employed. Um, I think that's probably where it's most likely to be valuable. Again, I see it being the biggest asset around if that other language overlaps with team members or stakeholders, which stakeholders can be project managers, other internal users, outside customers, and so sometimes that's not always apparent. It could also be so. I have seen some companies for new graduates, they like to hire them in sort of either like QA or customer service type roles and then promote into development. The idea being that they want the new people to learn the software from a user perspective first before they have them build it. Um, I don't necessarily like that assumption. I don't think it that always like I get the idea and in cases it works, but yeah. Like I worked for a company that did that and it was like, I didn't like it very much. So yeah. Uh I'd love to learn Mandarin in my off time, but I've never considered relevance to dev work, so that's neat though. Yeah, N key still sticking. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is there's certain times where multiple languages can certainly be valuable. Like my sister, she is not a software person. She went to school for trying to remember. She has a business degree of some kind. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she did an emphasis in foreign languages. So she knows Spanish, she knows French, um, and there's been times where it's been really handy having somebody like that who can communicate. Um, Specifically because the company she's working for, they have users across the globe, and so occasionally you get a user whose first language is not English, and it can be really handy to have somebody who can communicate effectively. Um, but I will say it hasn't been like a primary driver for her. It's been sort of a secondary thing. Okay, test written, test should fail. Okay, and hopefully the test failed at the very first assertion is what we want to see. Expected one, actual two. Okay, perfect. So we moved it down to one. It didn't move down. Okay, now we go and implement the code to make the test pass. Darn it, Nikolai. Oh, Mandarin for Taiwan for electronics and parts. Yeah, I could certainly see that. The Intelitech at one point in time had a spin-off sister company that was building um, industrial PCB printers, so printed circuit boards. Um, it's one of the few times in my life I've written code for something that could actively kill me because I my boss came in one day and I was literally sitting on the machine writing it as it went up and down because I was like, why not? This thing is supposed to lift like 900 pounds. I am not 900 pounds. Therefore, it should be fine to lift me. But I was also conscious of the fact that I was running the code that was driving the motors that were going up and down. I went, it might be bad if I accidentally like miss a cutoff switch and you whee. But I just trusted our electrical engineers that they had not messed anything up and it was fine. that was also the same job where I'm fairly confident I had the world's most expensive footstool. It could only go up and down about 4 inches, and it cost tens of thousands of dollars. So an adjustable footstool that gives that much adjustment for tens of thousands of dollars, and I got to use it for a couple weeks. Braver than me. You just gotta learn to trust your code, or in my case, trust the electrical engineers that had written the code. Okay, so we want to add a coerce specifically on maximum first. That's going to be here. Not on property changed. Do I can't remember. I think I can get away with null here. I honestly don't remember. I think I can because everything inside of WPF is implicitly nullable. Let's see. Right, it's object on all the things. So we're gonna go with private static paste. Course, then maximum. Just gonna rename you to value. Okay, and then you are nullable. You are nullable, which is kind of dumb because like it's coming from an int property. Wait, did you seriously just write the code for me? Oh, I don't think so. Okay, so let me. I want to look at slider again really quick. Make sure I'm not losing my mind. Trust the code. Trust the code that I wrote. Just so we're clear on where my is the trailing comma and dependency property okay. Oh, no, it's absolutely not okay. Uh that would go boom. Thank you. Uh there's a high chance that Copilot was trained with your code. I mean, they did train it on a curated set of Copilot or of GitHub repos. So there is a distinct possibility. But there's also a distinct possibility that it was trained on really bad code. So this is selection end. Where's selection end? I want to grab the on maximum. Oh, they did it on change. They coerced the start. Oh. Okay. So I don't want to coerce here. I want to coerce on value. And then on a property change, I want to coerce the value. Yes. Coerce numeric value. We've already got the coerce in here. Oh, and we've already got the maximum and min. Do you have code in that Arctic vault they did a few years back? I accidentally deleted my repo back then, but it's in a vault somewhere. I believe so. I think check. I think you can look at your profile. I think it's in one of these. Isn't it? Is it this one? Yeah, Arctic Code Vault contributor. I have multiple repositories. But like some of these are just open source repositories that I've submitted a PR to as well. So yes. And material design is in there. So this code has somehow made it into an Arctic vault somewhere, which is terrifying to say the least. So this is going to actually be on maximum changed. And then this, I just want to grab the signature because I can never get these right. Void, and then these two. Let's see. And you become void and properties. Yeah, it is. It is really interesting. The one that really got me was I think they announced it at roughly the same time. I'm trying to remember if there's even any relationship to them, but the storage mechanism on the glass, because I think that's what it actually is. In addition to the like the actual way that they were storing it, because Microsoft has shown off the way that they're able to do some of that storage by like etching tiny itty bitty little stuff into glass. It's absolutely shocking in my mind. Like I don't, I can't grok how awesome that is. Oh wait a minute. Oh wait a minute. They're cheating. This is a protected override. Reminds me of the golden record that NASA made. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Very similar. This is not a. This is not a. Oh, you suck. Because this is actually all the way in a base class, which is then overridden, which is then, let's see, because this is on maximum change. So there's their implementation. And then they call this. Guess we should probably I feel yucky. I feel yucky doing this. I don't know why I feel yucky doing this. This doesn't feel that bad. Okay. Let's go here. And then this is going to be numeric up down. See here. Let's go here, here. We don't care about that. We don't. This is wow. It's actually double coercing. Huh. Interesting. I don't know if we need this. I think this is actually all we need. So this should get it past. Uh, so dumb. Opening an issue and closing it within 5 minutes is an achievement. Yeah, some of their issues or some of their achievements are me. Like I don't think I've ever actually gone through and spent time trying to gain their achievements. This should still fail, but we should see it fail at the next assertion. So one step at a time. You initialize your variables at the top for most of your projects. I normally initialize it where it's used. I hear mixed opinions online. Oh, good question. Good question. So there are two schools of thought. And how you see it done often is an artifact of either somebody's first language that they learned, uh, programming language, um, instead of or their age in some ways, because in old school like C stuff, um, like there was actually performance stuff that went along with it. In C sharp, it literally doesn't matter. Um, so for example, uh, ba, 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 sharplab.io. So if people haven't seen this, this is a glorious website. So for example, if I do, int foo equals 0, right? Um, we can actually look at the compiled IL for this stuff. So don't panic if you haven't seen IL before. It's not horrible. And you don't actually need to understand a lot of this to get what's happening. But quick summary: when you compile a C sharp application, it compiles down into IL or intermediate language. It is a language that is similar to like x86 assembly, but it is not assembly. The important thing is then your runtime will take this and convert it into whatever assembly language your processor speaks. If you're on a 32-bit processor, you get 86. If you're on 64-bit processor, you get x64. If you're on an ARM processor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How you can build a C# application and not have to worry about your target architecture. But for local variables, you'll note they're always declared right up at the top. And so it doesn't matter where you actually assign them. It doesn't matter where, like if I do int foo equals, oh, hey, that's not cool. 0, right? And then I come down here and then I declare another one. Um, you have to type correctly, right? String bar gets foo, because that's not going to be confusing, right? If we look down here, we can see that both of these things end up being declared up at the front. So it, in terms of like some of the reasons why people will initialize a variable at the top of the bottom, sometimes that is an artifact of, again, like a C or C++ background, where people were told to do that because there are performance implications to that. Whereas in C#, it literally doesn't make a difference, at least for local variables inside of a method. They're literally all up at the top, regardless of where you put them. The compiler does all the heavy lifting. Fields are kind of a similar story. Uh, uh, let's not name it that, right? Uh, Fields, it doesn't matter where they get declared. They're always going to just be declared as a field here, and whether they're initialized here, which you'll note I've declared this field and directly initialized it to 42. But you can see here the declaration, there is no 42 assignment, right? We have to actually go all the way down here. And what's secretly happening under the hood is the default constructor that the compiler generates for us is actually what is storing the value of 42, right? So the default constructor, even though I've done it here, we can see that this is the actual IL for it, which means it's not that different than if I were to do public C. Dang it, I need to quit doing that. Right? As equals 42. Dang it. Starting to wonder if their thing is doing it to me. Right, so if I get rid of this, we can come down here. And again, even without knowing anything about IL, we can start to see that this starts to look real similar to what got generated. Right? The only subtle difference between this and the other constructor is you'll note that this one is, because we're in debug, has these extra no-op calls inside of here. Whereas if you go to release mode, you get a much more smaller constructor, right? Something closer to what the compiler generated. So when you let the compiler generate it, you always get optimized. When you write it yourself, in debug mode, you get extra no-op instructions so that you can have breakpoints on like your curly braces, right? Because technically you don't want any IL instructions for this curly brace. You want your code to go fast. And that's one of the big differences between debug and release, is there are extra instructions that are inserted for debug builds that are not inserted for release builds, simply to make your debugging experience nicer. So that's why that's why locally we run with debug, and why when we publish we always use release, because we don't want all those extra statements. Sharp Labs and .NET Fiddle need more advertisement. Yes, yes, absolutely. Like this type of optimization and doing this kind of thing, like some people get really weirded out over IL, but without like, we didn't need to read anything, like we don't need to know what these instructions are doing to kind of reason about it. Um, yeah, so let's see this guy. So same idea here is it's drop a link as well. Um, an online running one. There's technically also try.net, another one. Um, yeah, try to verbally communicate. Oh, is it down? They may have pulled it down. It kind of got let's see. And they used to have a standalone site for it, but they may have chucked it. This is what's powering, if you've ever seen like the runnable code samples inside of learn.microsoft.com, try.net is what's powering it. So which is it's somewhat of a difficult problem to do because it's like I want to write code in a browser, but I want it to compile and run. And that gets to be interesting, especially when you consider security or similar. Yeah. Let's see. You spoke about PR size a while back. Should I continue to make demo MVVM toolkit PRs for each control, or just do it all as one? Um, I think per control is slightly preferred, only because it makes it easier on the review. That way, if there's feedback, like one PR doesn't necessarily hold up the others. So if you wanted to do it all as one, that's fine. It's just it may take a longer to merge in because it's more to look through, and if there's feedback and back and forth, one section can then hold up another section, but it's not a big deal.